Marc A. is co-founder and partner of Caracal Strategies, a global business policy and communications firm. I spoke with him earlier about U.S. trade policy and President Trump's much anticipated and possibly controversial speech coming up at the World Economic Forum.
I really think he's going to lay the groundwork for more kind of tariffs, really emphasizing America first, going right to the belly of the beast, if you will, of globalization, and saying there's a new sheriff in town and new rules need to take place.
And you think that message will sit well with the participants at this conference?
No, not at all. But I don't think the audience is really the folks in Switzerland. I think the audience are folks back home in Detroit, St. Louis.
Do you really think that people back home in Detroit are watching Davos?
No, they're not. But anytime, it's really great politics when you have folks in the Great Lakes, voters, and you stick it to the Europeans. This is great politics that we've seen in the Paris Accord. Trump is very good at speaking to his base, and he knows what it does. Anytime you can poke it in the eye of the Europeans, that's good politics back home. It may not be great policy, but it's certainly good politics.
Now, last year, we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping really stealing the show and defending globalization. You talked about Trump's speech. What do you think the main theme of his speech will be, if there's a theme?
Right. I think if you go back to the speech he made at APEC in Vietnam last fall, it'd be a rehash of that. I think he'll reinforce the message of American first, certainly encouraging investment of foreign nationals into U.S., who re-emphasize the tax cuts, how they've been positive for not only the American economy, but the global economy. I think he's going to re-emphasize and try to make the case that, listen, a strong America is good for the world. Now, if this, makes sense, if the policies can actively be enacted, that's a little different story. I mean, obviously, Trump is an exceptional speaker. He's very good at making campaign rhetoric, but can he turn that into reality? That's what we need to see.
What about Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and what will you be looking for in that address?
I think there's two things. He's obviously reinforcing to the world that Canada does matter. Canada does want to play a role in not only global politics, but also global trade. I think he will tell folks there that NAFTA will be reformed, that it will not be broken up, which would be very positive. What's interesting is there's some speculation that in 1990, the idea of NAFTA was kind of hatched at Davos. So we're seeing a complete full circle of activity. But I think Trudeau going there is a great reminder that how important Canada is to the global economy.
And what if NAFTA talks do break down and collapse? What are the implications, Marc?
Well, as somebody who grew up in Detroit, on a border town, who've seen a lot of commerce go back and forth over the Detroit River, I think it would be horrible, detrimental, disastrous. I really don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of pressure groups. You have governors, you have congressional delegations, you have massive American companies that have invested in a supply chain that depends on moving commerce and goods across the U.S.-Mexico, U.S.-Canadian border. I think reform is going to happen. What that means, I really have no idea. I think you'll see a situation where politicians will be able to say that they were loyal to their bases, and that reform happens. What's also interesting is Mexico is due to have an election in July, so will this happen before or after remains to be seen. But I'm pretty optimistic that NAFTA will be in place.
We need optimism right now.
Absolutely.
Marc A, thank you so much.